Have you ever been on the edge of a big decision? Starting a new exercise routine, tackling debt, or even uprooting your life to move somewhere new, but you can't get yourself to just take that first step? You're not alone. In this episode, we're unlocking the hidden drive behind those stuck moments. Because sometimes it's not about willpower, it's about understanding your brain. I've got 10 minutes before my next session. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to In Session, the podcast focused on making therapy feel more human and more accessible. This is Between Sessions, a short segment where Associate Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist Mark Ponce highlights themes and questions that might help you think differently about your therapy and life experiences. Thank you for being here. Please enjoy today's episode.
Welcome to this segment of the podcast, Between Sessions, where I highlight themes and questions that might help you think differently about your life experience from the perspective of a practicing therapist. And the fun part, I try to do it in just 10 minutes, about the amount of time I really get between sessions if I'm lucky. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational and reflective purposes only. It's not a substitute for therapy. If something resonates with you, consider bringing it into your own sessions or reaching out to a licensed professional like myself or those that I feature on the pod. Something that my clients and I explore together a ton in therapy is decision making. All types of decisions, big and small, come up in our everyday lives, and sometimes our brains and our nervous systems get overwhelmed when attempting to make those decisions. This makes a lot of sense, because there is often a lot more to decision-making that we don't consider right away. Therapy, thankfully, opens the space for us to address all the nuance when it comes to making moves in our life. By the way, the word nuance is used a ton by therapists, and I'm not sure everyone knows what it means, but simply put, nuances are subtle, often overlooked meanings and variations to parts of our life, okay? The word is often used to describe art pieces when it comes to noticing shading techniques by the artist that one can only see when they pay close attention to the piece. Anyways, thanks for letting me nerd out there for a second, but coming back to nuance as related to decision making, there are often parts of decisions that we don't see, and this comes up more than we think, like the influence of our family and our cultural backgrounds, or being reminded of the consequences of a similar decision we've made in the past, or someone in our life has made and we've felt the consequences of that. Or even anxiety surrounding what might happen if we make the wrong decision, right? Quote unquote wrong decision there. All those are relevant and once understood open the pathway to making an informed decision. But there's a question of yes. I've been exploring all of this in my therapy, Mark, but I don't have the motivation to start. You say informed decision, and I feel I'm informed, so now what? I literally think my partner said this to me like last week. And I'd still have some curiosities here of what maintains this cycle of stuckness, but for the sake of this episode segment, here's one factor when it comes to decision making that could be helpful to consider. So take it as you wish, or leave it. Thanks for being here anyways. Let's talk motivation and activation energy. A common misconception when it comes to motivation is that it starts before we make things happen. The equation kind of makes sense. If we're motivated, then we can act, and then we've then made things happen. Like, that makes a ton of sense. Take going to the gym. I'll use myself as an example. I often dread going to the gym. I know it'll come with some level of discomfort. I'll end up pushing myself. Maybe even feel a little insecure when the 16-year-old is lifting double the weight as I am right next to me. That's just real. Anyways, then my brain, understandably so, says no. Why would we go then? The brain is wired for our safety and our protection. So why would it be motivated to put us in a place that is unknown, uncertain, and may just make us feel unsafe? But when I make the decision to put my workout clothes on and grab my keys even, I start to feel that motivation start to build. The equation starts when I make the small decision that is related to the big decision. It's a biological process called activation energy. In its truest form, chemists describe this as the minimum amount of energy required to initiate a chemical reaction. Now, I would describe it as the minimum amount of energy or action required to initiate the bigger action or decision. So instead of waiting for motivation to start something, what if it's actually reducing the activation energy required to start that thing? If it feels insurmountably huge to tackle debt, for example, what if we start by putting just $5 aside a week? Or even before that, to slice it even thinner than that, what if we set a daily alarm to check our banking app? The hope here is that the alarm goes off and we're reminded to check our banking app. So then we open our banking app. Then we see where our funds are at. And maybe then we're reminded that, oh yeah, I wanted to put $5 aside, so I'm going to put it in its own bucket. And there, we've started saving to tackle our debt, right? Because if we look at the big number of debt that we're in, and I'm also talking about myself, then of course that's overwhelming. It's like, how can I pay all this money right now? But maybe that's just a way of thinking about it that's not totally helpful. If we slice it thin, perhaps our brains can be exposed to just enough to get us going. So it might be worth asking yourself, what in your life right now have you wanted to start, but haven't found the motivation to do so? Even if it feels like the biggest obstacle, what is one way to slice it thinner? We'll slice it thin even right now. I want you to get out a pen and a paper, or if that's inaccessible to you, wherever you are, start a physical note on your device you're listening to this episode on. If it's unsafe, of course, like if you're driving or something, please just do this later. Write just one idea. It doesn't have to be grand or groundbreaking, just something small and accessible that you can do right now, that you can do today. I'd argue that you even grabbing this pen and paper right now or starting this note is slicing it thin. I mean, here you are doing the action of thinking about what you want to do, but something small and accessible you can do just tonight. Thank you so much for listening until the end. Please consider following the show and sharing it with just one friend, one family member, or even just the front desk person at your gym. Leave a comment or DM me on my Instagram of what resonated with you from this episode or your thoughts on everything motivation. I'd love to hear them. It would help a ton if you gave the show a 5-star review or sent me feedback or questions via email at insessionpod@outlook.com or DM me on my Instagram. Listen, my next client just got here, so until next time, my friend.
Thanks for listening to this episode of In Session. If something resonated with you, let us know on any of our socials or directly on the podcast episode. If you want to be featured on the show, please DM us or reach out to our team at insessionpod@outlook.com. That's insessionpod@outlook.com. Please like and follow, and we'll see you on the next episode.